You're a Big Bat Bobby, not a Bobby
I'm a
Barrows
Big
guy.
Bat Bobby guy. I like Big Bat Bobby. Your
Born.
Mount Rushmore of nicknames for Bobby Pierce.
Oh, here we go. Bringing it all back to the last segment. Okay. Next big topic tonight. Let us talk about an exciting time continuing for the baseball program. Several things this week happened and were big things to talk about. We're going to mainly focus, at least at the beginning part of this, on one singular event, and that is the MLB Draft. Now, I got to be honest, Austin. There's very few times that I've actually sat down or made sure I put on my calendar the MLB Draft. As much as a Braves fan as I am, it's just not something that you dial into typically. Yeah. That has all changed with Butch Thompson, and rightfully so. Do you feel that same shift, or have you always been an MLB Draft guy?
No, definitely not. I've been an MLB Draft guy. I keep up with it. I can tell you maybe the amount of time I've watched it is probably less than a couple hours over my entire life. It's just different than the other drafts. You don't see these guys getting drafted into the big leagues for years.
Right.
It's just a longer process. But it's hard not to pay attention to it in recent years with the amount of talent that Coach Butch Thompson and his staff have recruited and developed and put into these positions. So I'm certainly aware of it a lot more than I was.
Right. I think it's one of the things that's great about this time, and I hope that people recognize what we have in Butch Thompson, whether it's a year of surprises like this one, pleasant ones, bad surprises if they have a down year, or they're doing exactly what you thought they would do. We are living in a prime time for Auburn baseball, and we've had some great years. Talk about Frank Thomas, Hal Baird, beyond that, Greg Olson. Go all the way back to Jimmy Hitchcock. People forget that he's a legendary part of Auburn baseball history. We are just in a special time right now. All right, so let's give you the MLB Draft as it stood for Auburn. 3 representatives that I think are a good representation of this team. You've got Cole Foster, who went into the 3rd round, pick 85 to the San Francisco Giants. Next up was Bryson Ware in round 8, pick 253.
Shoo.
I think this is why I don't pay attention to the MLB Draft, Austin, because there's so many picks.
Forever. Yeah.
To the Philadelphia Phillies. That one hurts my heart a little bit.
Just gross.
As a Braves fan, but we will still support you, Mr. Ware. Next up, we had Chase Isbell going to the Kansas City Royals, round 15, pick 439. And even though it wasn't part of the draft, shortly after that, as it always is, free agents get picked up. We had Nate LaRue himself getting picked up and going to the Toronto Blue Jays. So that is essentially your round out of the MLB Draft and the direct implications of it. So your thoughts on these guys, where they're heading, anything that pops out to you?
Yeah, guys that definitely made an impact on Auburn. Some guys, and I think we'll get to here in a second, I'm surprised that weren't drafted. Mm-hmm. Some of that for Auburn's benefit, and but all 4 of those guys, certainly made enough impact on Auburn and the SEC to be drafted. You succeed in the SEC, that's going to catch a lot of eyes of these scouts. And each of those guys did that. So props to them. I'm not surprised at all Cole Foster was Auburn's first draft pick this year. I think that he is going to be an incredibly successful Giant and have a long career. And so looking forward to following each of their careers. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's good to mention Cole Foster as the number 1 pick for Auburn in the draft, the first one to go. But I'm honestly shocked that Bryson Ware, after not just this year, but the lead up to this year that he's had as an Auburn Tiger, didn't go a little bit higher. I mean, it just came out on fire. And maybe your case is that he showed it this level of being a home run hitter in one season. It wasn't incredible every single year. I'd have to go back and look to confirm that or not, but that would be my perceptions of how it was. I did expect Bryson to go a little bit higher. But Cole Foster going first, for Auburn, I think it makes a lot of sense. He's been a mainstay here. Yes. Can I be honest about, and we're going to get to the 2 big ones we need to talk about that are implications for Auburn, but one that wasn't picked up yet at all that I know of, and that is our center fielder. Are you thinking about?
I am.
What do you think about that?
I was thinking about it a lot throughout the weekend. That Kason Howell was not picked up by anybody that we know of outside of he might be in free agency or so. I don't know how long those things take, but was surprised he wasn't drafted. Someone who was not the most on fire offensive player throughout his career, certainly has put his name in the record books for the most doubles in Auburn career, but a defensive center fielder, which is a highly valuable commodity for a lot of these teams. I think somebody's going to be able to get him should he choose to continue his playing career that will not regret it. But that was one I thought was going to get drafted toward the end of things and just never came through.
I think the defense is his biggest asset, but I think what you brought up is even one that's overlooked too. This guy is tied for the doubles record, I guess is what it was.
Right.
But also he's getting on base, and that's a huge thing. And if you've watched any of these movies of late, I think it's Moneyball, maybe, that
gets on base.
That's all he asks. And that is like, what's he do? Get on base. And he's a great defender. So does he have the quote unquote pop on the bat? Maybe not. But he's going to get on base. He's going to play great defense. What more can you ask? He's fast as all can get out. So I don't understand what more he needed to do other than having more pop on his bat. We'll watch and see what happens there. Off of this, again, congratulations to our guys that got drafted. I think two guys that should have gotten drafted, maybe. And it's hard to talk about this because you want them to succeed, but then you also want to be selfish as a fan.
Yeah.
And so when the draft goes by and then the first few hours and day of free agency go by and they don't get picked up, two names: starting pitcher Joseph Gonzalez and outfielder Bobby Barrels. Just don't get picked up, and then everybody gets that little glimmer of hope. And think, is this what's happening, or are we? Is there something we're not privy to? And then the announcement comes, folks. Joseph Gonzalez, Bobby Pierce, Bobby Barrels is coming back to play for the Auburn Tigers for 2024. How pumped are you, Mr. Scott?
Super pumped. I mean, and like you said, you can take a look at this from two different angles. And these are two different scenarios, I think, too, to talk about. Auburn fans should be pumped that Big Bat Bobby is coming back and will be in the outfield ready to hose some people down at home plate again. And his pop to the lineup will be here. Surprised he didn't get drafted. I am. I thought that, just like Kason had done a whole lot in the SEC, in the country's strongest league by far, to show that he could help a team out somewhere or help a franchise out somewhere. Nevertheless, he's coming back to Auburn, and that's a huge, huge boost for Butch Thompson's team for next year. And then you got a different situation with Joseph Gonzalez, where only made one appearance this year from injury. A lot of people thought, well, he's gone regardless because he's shown enough in his last couple of years. He's ready. That's right. And he doesn't get picked up at all, which is just really shocking. I think when you look at that, you've got, on one hand, good for him to be able to come back and feel like he has another chance, but he's also now coming back with a chip on his shoulder.
Oh yeah.
Wanting to be healthy and wanting to prove, all right, you had your chance to take me, and now I'm coming back, and I'm going to be trying to go even higher than I was ever projected. So really good news for Auburn on both fronts. I think this team really needs it, for some veteran guys to be here, and also just some guys who are that talented. We talked about all the guys Auburn lost to the draft. Auburn lost some signees, too, that were incredibly talented that, are going to go ahead and start their professional careers, and even one in the transfer that was set to come to Auburn and will instead now surprisingly start his career. So really good additions for Auburn in the clubhouse and on the field. And I mean, we get to watch Big Bat Bobby / Bobby Barrels for another year and make all those jokes. So that's a win in itself.
So you're a Big Bat Bobby, not a Bobby Barrels guy.
Big Bat Bobby guy. I like Big Bat Bobby.
So we're gonna have this is what's gonna happen for the next year. We're gonna, I'll be Team Barrels, you'll be Big Bat.
That's fine.
Team. That's what's gonna happen. We'll have a debate. So go ahead and pick your sides now, folks. Are you Team Big Bat or Team Barrels with Kyle? You know the right side. Go with chair number 1.
What's your Mount Rushmore of nicknames for Bobby Pierce?
Oh, here we go, bringing it all back to the last segment. Okay. Anyway, great news for Auburn, and in some ways, great news for them. In some ways. Very sad that they didn't get their opportunities they wanted this year, because that always hurts me, because I know how hard everybody works to get to that point. That's their goal and their aim, is to go to the professional level. So hopefully we've got chips on our shoulder. Hopefully we got big bat barrels, or whatever you want. Big arms, healthy arms coming in this next year. And look, just as a final note, if this week of good news, people getting drafted, getting opportunities, and coming back wasn't enough, Carl Nonemaker, Gabe Gross got associate head coach promotions, and very much deserved. Got a new pitching coach that's here. I mean, Auburn, even after their surprising into the season in baseball, and even after that initial hype's over, is just still riding this with a new facility being, I shouldn't say a new facility, upgrades coming to the facility, which we talked about on a previous episode. Good times, man, for Auburn baseball. I mean, if you're not hopping on board this baseball train, you need to figure yourself out. Why are you even an Auburn fan? I'm kidding, but so obviously good times,
No doubt, and that's a trend that we've talked about, that Auburn baseball has been on a steady incline for a while, and so I think these additions / mainstays will help Auburn baseball in 2024. So I'm excited for this team. We got a long way to go before we're talking about that team and their outcomes next year, but that's something to look forward to, certainly.
Oh, and on top of that, as a final note, a couple of transfers that are already coming in from Florida, Jacksonville State. So the good news just continues for Auburn baseball. Point stands big time there.